Welcome back to Imchroniccallywriting, where myths and folklore from every corner of the globe come alive through original storytelling. My name is Tashawn, your guide on this journey into the mystical, the eerie, and the forgotten. Each episode will delve into a new tale, blending ancient legends with fresh narratives that will transport you beyond the ordinary. Today, I'll be reading an original story based off the drop bear from Australia. Remember that all my stories are loosely based on real-life events, but are set in real-life scenarios, so enjoy it how you may. If you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, thank you for stopping by. But now, it's time. Go ahead and settle in, open your mind, lay down, relax, and let the stories unfold. Before we begin, we have to discuss about what a drop bear is. The drop bear is a hoax in contemporary Australian folklore featuring a predatory, carnivorous version of the koala. The imaginary animal is commonly spoken about in tall tales designed to scare tourists. The drop bears are described as unusually large and vicious marsupials that inhabit treetops and attack the unsuspecting people or their prey that walk beneath them by dropping onto their heads from above. Hopefully that information, I don't even know what I want to call it, but hopefully you got more information on what a drop bear is. I ain't gonna lie, when I was doing my research, I couldn't even imagine a koala dropping down on me while walking through a rainforest. Do they have rainforests down there in Australia? I have no clue. Anyways, it's just that I don't picture a koala going crazy on a human, Like I read, all they do is eat bamboo or something like that. I might be thinking of panda. Anyways, they don't eat meat. That's all I'm saying. So when I was writing this story, I had fun with how the koala was tormenting the family that would be in this story. So hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully you make it through to the end and see how this story pans out. Thank you again for checking out my podcast once again. And we try to upload daily. Life gets in the way of things, but I'm glad you're here. So hope you enjoyed today's story. Eyes in the Dark is an original short story by Tashawn Fonteneaux. Part 1. The Jacobs family, consisting of parents Greg and Laura and their 3 children, 17-year-old Emily, 14-year-old Jake, and 10-year-old Lily, were ecstatic about their extended vacation to Australia. It was a dream trip, a chance to explore the land down under and immerse themselves in its unique wildlife and breathtaking landscapes. Their itinerary was packed with adventures, from snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef to exploring the outback. But the highlight of their trip was a guided hike through a lush, remote rainforest known for its rich biodiversity and supposedly a population of koalas. On the 3rd day of their stay, they set out for the hike with their guide, a local named Barry, who was well versed in the area's flora and fauna. The family was thrilled to potentially see koalas in the wild, and Barry assured them it was a common sight along this trail. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the thick canopy overhead filtered the sunlight into a soft, green glow, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. The sounds of the birds and rustling leaves accompanied their footsteps, making the experience feel like a true escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. "Isn't this amazing?" Laura exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It really is," Greg agreed, taking a deep breath of fresh earthly air. "This is exactly what we needed." Emily, always the budding photographer, had her camera ready, snapping pictures of the vibrant flora. Jake, with a map in hand, tried to track their progress, while Lily skipped ahead, humming a tune and swinging her arms. After a few hours of walking, they finally spotted a koala perched high in a eucalyptus tree. It was a sight to see, as the fluffy creature munched lazily on leaves. The children were captivated, snapping pictures and cooing at the sight. "Look at its nose," Lily giggled. "It's so cute." "Yeah, it's like a living stuffed animal," Jake added, smiling up at the tree. Barry, however, seemed uneasy. He glanced around the forest, his expression tense. "They're usually more shy," he murmured, mostly to themselves. "Is something wrong?" Emily asked, noticing his discomfort. Barry hesitated, then chuckled lightly. "Just an old story," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "There's a local legend about a cursed koala that brings bad luck, but it's just folklore, nothing to worry about." The family laughed, assuming it was just a bit of fun to spice up the tour. "A cursed koala?" Greg chuckled. "That's a new one." As the day went on, they continued their hike deeper into the forest. The mood shifted when they noticed the forest growing eerily quiet. The usual chatter of birds and insects had faded away, replaced by an unsettling silence. Even the wind seemed to have stilled. Barry stopped and looked around. His brows furrowed. "We should head back," he suggested, his tone serious. "It's getting late, and we don't want to get lost in the dark." "Well, we haven't seen any more koalas," Lily protested, pouting. "We've come this far," Laura added. "Let's just go a little further." Reluctantly, Barry nodded. "All right, but we need to be quick." They came across another koala, this one on a lower branch, staring at them intently. Its eyes, usually dark and button-like, seemed unusually sharp and intelligent. The koala emitted a low, growling sound, unlike anything they heard before. That doesn't sound right," Jake muttered, stepping back. Greg frowned. "Maybe it's sick or something." Barry's face paled. "That's not normal behavior," he said quietly. "We really should turn back." Emily glanced at her parents, a shiver running down her spine. "Maybe we should listen to Barry," she suggested, her voice tinged with unease. Laura bit her lip, sensing the tension. "Okay, let's go back," she agreed, trying to sound reassuring. As they turned to leave, the silence of the forest pressed down on them, heavy and foreboding. The eerie atmosphere and the unsettling behavior of the koala lingered in their minds, casting a shadow over their once joyous adventure. Part 2. The Jacobs family set up camp for the night near a small clearing, deciding to rest before the journey back the next day. Barry built a fire and tried to lighten the mood with stories of his past adventures in the forest, but the uneasy feeling lingered. The tension from the day's strange events hung heavy in the air, and even Barry's most lighthearted tales couldn't fully dispel the sense of foreboding. "Did you know," Barry began, poking at the fire, "that the lyrebird can mimic almost any sound it hears? Cameras, chainsaws, even other animals?" He paused, glancing around at the family. "It's quite the showman of the forest." "That's amazing," Emily replied, though her voice lacked its usual enthusiasm. She hugged her knees to her chest, staring into the flames. Jake fiddled with a stick, drawing circles in the dirt. "Do you think we'll hear one?" he asked, his tone more hopeful than curious. "Maybe," Barry said with a forced smile, "but let's hope for the usual sounds of the forest." As night fell, the sounds of the forest returned, but they seemed different, more sinister. The chirping of insects and the occasional rustling in the bushes seemed amplified, almost distorted. The family went to sleep, each of them feeling a sense of unease they couldn't quite shake. In the middle of the night, Greg was awakened by a rustling sound outside the tent. Thinking that might be an animal rummaging for food, he unzipped the tent quietly and stepped out. The fire had died down, casting the area in dim, flickering shadows. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he spotted the silhouette of a koala just a few meters away. It stood on the ground, unnaturally still, staring directly at him. Greg felt a chill run down his spine. The koala eyes seemed to glow faintly in the firelight, and then it let out a low, guttural growl. A sound far removed from the gentle creatures they had seen earlier. Before he could react, the creature lunged at him with terrifying speed and ferocity. "Greg!" Laura screamed, jolted awake by the commotion. The family rushed out the tent, but it was too late. Greg was gone, only a trail of blood leading into the darkness. Panic set in as Barry, visibly shaken, tried to explain the legend he mentioned earlier. The legend, it's true," Barry stammered, his face pale. "They say there's a koala possessed by an ancient spirit, cursed to hunt humans. It's harmless by day, but deadly by night." "That's ridiculous," Laura cried, holding her children close. "Greg, he can't be gone, right?" Barry's voice was grim. "I've never believed it until now, but the signs were all there. We need to get out of here now." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "We can't just leave him. We have to find Dad." "He's right," Jake added, though his voice trembled with fear. "We just can't leave." Laura tried to keep her children calm, but the terror was palpable. "We'll find him," she said, trying to sound firm, though her voice cracked. "But we need help. We need to get to the ranger station." As they hurriedly packed up, the air seemed to grow colder. Just as they were about to leave, a low growling noise echoed from the edge of the clearing. The cursed koala was back, its eyes glowing menacingly in the dark. "There!" Jake pointed, his voice high with panic. Barry grabbed a stick, holding it out defensively. "Stay behind me," he instructed, trying to sound confident. The koala moved with an eerie grace, its growls growing louder. Barry swung the stick, trying to fend it off, but the creature was unnaturally agile, dodging its attacks. In a horrifying movement, the koala lunged at Barry, claws outstretched. "Barry, look out!" Lori screamed. Part 3. In a horrifying movement, the koala lunged at Barry, biting down with sharp teeth and dragging him into the forest. His screams mingled with growls, creating a cacophony of terror that echoed through the night. The Jacob family fled, running blindly through the dark forest, their hearts pounding with fear. Emily clung tightly to Lily's hand, while Jake tried to help their mother keep up. The growls seemed to chase them, always just behind, a relentless reminder to the creature that pursued them. The forest, once a place of beauty and wonder, now seemed to twist and turn around them, its shadows hiding unseen dangers. The family's panic grew as they realized they were lost, with no sense of direction. It felt as if the creature was toying with them, herding them deeper into the woods with every turn. As dawn began to break, they stumbled into a small clearing. The soft light of the rising sun offered a brief respite, but their fear was not easily dispelled. Exhausted and terrified, they huddled together, hoping the daylight would keep the creature at bay. But the legend was clear. The cursed koala was bound by no natural law. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, they heard the now familiar growl, low and menacing. The creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes still glowing with an unworldly light. In the pale morning light, it seemed to grow larger, its form more monstrous and grotesque. Laura stepped in front of her children, her voice trembling as she tried to protect them. "Stay behind me," she whispered, her eyes locked on the approaching creature. "We just need to keep it at bay until help arrives, okay?" The koala paused, its eerie gaze fixed on the family. For a moment, everything was still, the air thick with tension. Then with a sudden burst of speed, the creature lunged. Laura screamed as it knocked her to the ground, her cry piercing in the morning air. "Mom!" Emily shouted, pulling Lily and Jake away from the scene. Tears streamed down her face, but she knew that they had to keep moving. "Run! We have to run!" The three siblings sprinted through the forest, their fear propelling them forward. Branches tore at their clothes and skin, but they didn't stop. The growls followed them, growing louder, closer. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm them, they burst out the forest and onto a dirt road. A park ranger patrolling the area saw them and rushed over. The sight of the terrified, disheveled children made him instantly alert. Emily, gasping for breath and struggling to speak, tried to explain what had happened, but her words were tangled in her panic. It's in the forest," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "It took our parents. Please, you have to help." The ranger, seeing the terror in their eyes and the state they were in, quickly radioed for backup. "This is Ranger Daniels," he said in his radio, his voice calm but urgent. "We got an emergency situation. Need backup and a search team at the northern trailhead, ASAP." Within minutes, a search party was assembled, armed and ready to scour the forest. They guided the children to safety, reassuring them that help was on the way. Emily, Jake, and Lily clung to each other, their faces pale with shock and fear. As they were escorted to safety, the children kept looking back, their eyes scanning the tree line for any sign of their parents. The search party combed through the forest, but when they reached the clearing, there was no sign of Laura, Barry, or Greg. Only the faint, eerie growl echoed through the trees, a chilling reminder of the curse that lurked within. Thank you for listening in on today's story titled Eyes in the Dark. Oh my gosh, that took me so many tries, you won't even believe it. Hopefully you enjoyed it though. What do you think happened with the kids? You think anybody would believe their story? I feel like people would, only because they came out of the woods disheveled and they instantly saw the little park ranger. Also too, I wonder if the park rangers had any other people have stories like this. because Barry knew of the tale, but he didn't believe it until he saw it, you know? And then I wonder if there's ever been anybody who survived an attack besides the 3 siblings. Let me know what y'all think down below in the comments or whatever platform you're listening on. Also, let me know what story I should do next. Or I guess you could say like what country, continent? I don't know. I kind of just like pick these by random every day when I write. So just let me know down below in the comments. But once again, thank you for checking out today's story titled Eyes in the Dark. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and like the video. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow if you haven't already. I post daily stories to keep you up at night. I try to. So if you have a folklore, myth, or legend in mind that you want me to write about, let me know down below in the comments. Once again, my name is Tashawn and I'm chronically writing, and I'll see y'all in our next story. Have a blessed day.